Hey there, Gentrovo is back with another top 10 list. This time I'm going to be discussing the top 10 closers of all time. I do not have my counterparts with me today. Sadly, they are busy, but I did want to put a video out there so you can debate, argue, whatever you want to do. This is the top 10 closers of all time, and I don't want to, beat around the bush, so let's get to it. Here is number 10. My number 10 is a closer that is still in the game right now. I think he was traded to the Washington Nationals last season. His name is Jonathan Papelbon. He has won one World Series title, has been voted an All-Star nearly 6 times. He has over 300 saves. His K per 9 is over 10. This guy is a very, very solid closer. And I think before it's all said and done, he's going to have over 400 saves if he keeps going. I think he's on a good Nationals team. It just depends on whether he decides not to get any more fights with Bryce Harper again. When this guy was with the Red Sox, I think the battle between him and Mariano Rivera was a great little rivalry they had together there for a bit. So Jonathan Papelbon, my number 10, has never led the league in saves. That's one thing that goes against him. However, he is a very, very solid closer. Jonathan Papelbon, number 10. Okay, my number 9 is a person that is still playing the game. He is on the Detroit Tigers currently for the 2016 season, and his name is Francisco Rodriguez, otherwise known as K-Rod. He is most notable for his 62 save season back in 2008. That is the single season record. He broke Bobby Thigpen's record. He has a 386 saves, so another guy that is probably eventually going to have over 400 saves. He is a solid closer. There was a few seasons where he didn't close, but when he was closing in full efficiency, he was one of the best. And he did lead this lead the lead in saves around 3 times or so. So he is one of the best, in my opinion, of all time. Francisco Rodriguez. Okay, number 8 might be a first shocker of the list. It might be a little bit down according to some other people, but my number 8 is one of my favorite Yankee closers of all time. No, not that one. Goose Gossage, Rich Gossage. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer, and I chose for him to be number 8 because, well, the last 7 or so seasons of his career, he wasn't really a closer. He was a relief pitcher still. He started off as a relief pitcher. He had one season where he was a dominant starter, and then he went back to being a closer for the Pirates, and he went to the Yankees, and that's where most people know him. He won a World Series with the Padres, 2 with the Yankees. He does have 300 saves. He is a multiple All-Star, I think 9-time All-Star, one of the highest on this list. He won 3 World Series, like I said. He had 4+ seasons where he threw over 100 innings. And for a reliever, that is amazing. So that is my number 8, Goose Gossage. Okay, my number 7 closer pitched around the same time that Goose Gossage did, came out a little bit after. He was a bearded wonder, master of the split finger. His name is Bruce Souter. Now the reason I put Bruce Souter a little bit ahead of Gossage is because he had a few more seasons where he pitched over 100 innings than Gossage did. Bruce Souter did have 300 saves, ERA placed 136. He did win a Cy Young Award in 1979, so I kind of eked that a little bit over Goose Gossage. Bruce Souter, a dominant closer, led the league in saves 5 different times, and I think it was a few years, and maybe 4 years in a row where he did lead it. So for his day in the early 80s, Bruce Souter was the dominant closer. So that's my number 7, Bruce Souter. All right, my number 6 is another man that can throw 100 innings as a closer, and he played primarily for the Oakland Athletics during the 70s and then went to the Brewers for a little while and a couple other teams. It's Rollie Fingers, had 341 saves, did win a Cy Young / MVP in 1981 as a closer. There's only one other guy that did that. And I thought that Rollie Fingers, besides from having the awesome mustache, has to be put in a top 10 closers of all time list. He was one of the first closers, maybe the first, if I'm not mistaken, to be put into the Hall of Fame as a closer. I mean, he established that role and made it what it is today, except for he was a 2-inning closer instead of 1-inning closer, but he was one of the instrumental figures of trying to suggest to baseball fans in the world that, look, bullpens are where it's at. That's how you win championships. Go back and look at that 1970s Oakland Athletic team, 72, 73, 74. Why were they winning? Rollie Fingers. Okay, my number 5, we're in the top 5 here. This guy was a 6-time All-Star, started the first half of his career as a starting pitcher for for the Boston Red Sox. Then became a closer when he went to the Oakland Athletics. His name is Dennis Eckersley. The Eck. The hair, the mustache, everything. The guy threw the sidearm pitch. Did lose the 88 World Series on the Kirk Gibson home run, but they came back and won he did win the 89 World Series, and then they lost the 90 series. Whoops. But Dennis Eckersley, when he was a closer for the 10 or so period that he was a closer, again, was one of the instrumental closers to where you had a power closer. The one inning guy that comes in and shuts you down in the ninth inning, you can't touch him. He probably had one of the greatest closing seasons in 1991 or 92. He won a Cy Young and MVP, just as the guy that I mentioned previously, Rollie Fingers. Dennis Eckersley, 390 saves, a .99 whip as a closer, not his lifetime, but as he was a closer, it was a 9.999 whip, 8.8 K per nine, two times led the league in saves. Dennis Eckersley, some people might put him higher on the list. I have him number 5 just because he started his career off as a starter, and I know still he was a great dominant closer. However, I do think the men above him on my list, looking at them as a closer, are a little bit above Eckersley. And no offense to Eckersley, he's one of my childhood heroes. Dennis Eckersley, number 5. All right, my number 4 was a longtime San Diego Padre. He was actually the all-time leader in saves just for a smidge, and he was the first person to get to 600 saves. He was eventually surpassed. But Trevor Hoffman is my number 4 guy as a closer, just simply because of the number 601 or 602, 601 saves. I mean, come on, that's got to be at least top 5 for closers. If you got 600 plus saves, how could you not put that in your top 5? Now, some other analysts might go out there and say, well, they can look at these other different numbers and say, well, this, and this, he's not as good as these other guys. But the number 601, you can't get past, all right? That's one of those numbers that are just unbelievably good. I don't think many other people are going to get to 600 saves. Injuries, it just doesn't happen. Now, Hoffman had the changeup, powerful changeup, and that's why he was so dominant. He led the league in saves twice. He was a 7-time All-Star, ERA plus of 1.41, 9.4 K per nine. Trevor Hoffman is definitely in my top 5. Number 4, actually, Trevor Hoffman. All right, now this one I think people might wholeheartedly disagree with. You can go ahead and do that, but there were some people I cut off here and there that I wanted to put on the list, but they just couldn't, and I rank this guy exceptionally high just because for the first 5 years of this guy's career, I don't think any other closers has done what he's done. He's led the league in saves 4 times. He has an ERA right now that is a ridiculous 1.63. His ERA plus is 2.33. This is Craig Kimbrel, formerly of the Atlanta Braves, formerly of the San Diego Padres, and now the newest Boston Red Sox closer. And as a Yankees fan, I am very, very fearful of Craig Kimbrel. Now, he already has over 200 saves, and he's only pitched for about 5 seasons. And he's roughly 27 years of age. This guy might have 7 or so more good seasons in him, because if I mentioned Jonathan the Papelbon back, he's 34. If Kimbrel can go for another 7 years or so and be as good as he is right now, this guy might be the next person to get to 600 saves, aside from injury if he doesn't get hurt. But Craig Kimbrel is a dominant closer. He has a 14.5 K per nine. Come on, Craig Kimbrel. Okay, my number 2. I don't know if you guys want to put this guy on your list as being the number 2 closer of all time, but when I was looking at the numbers, I just could not keep him from being number 2 because he is so dominant in regards. He's got 422 saves. He's got a .998 whip, a 1.87 ERA plus, 11.9 K per nine, was a 7-time All-Star. I mean, there's some little scars here. He didn't lead the league in saves, but he did have 422 saves, and that is Billy Wagner, my number 2 closer of all time. The most dominant left-handed closer, definitely, and I think the number 2 closer of all time. The numbers suggest to me that Billy Wagner in his heyday, in his prime, was nearly untouchable. Number 2, Billy Wagner. Number 1, I don't think a lot of people will probably argue about this. This guy has the highest ERA plus of all time at 2.05. He's got 652 saves. He's been an All-Star 13 times, led the league in save 3 times. Won 5 World Series titles, was in the top 5 Cy Young voting places for 5 seasons, 2.21 ERA, 1.0 WHIP, 952 games finished, the most of all time. Number 1, Mariano Rivera. And if you want to argue this, if you want to try to debate this, go ahead. I don't find many people, I doubt you're going to find many people that are going to argue that Mariano Rivera is not number 1. They're probably out there, I understand that, but Mariano Rivera, not just because I'm a Yankees fan, but because Mariano Rivera, nobody has ever dominated the game as a closer such as him in the regular season and in the postseason. Mariano Rivera, number 1, no doubt. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Next time, hopefully I'll have my colleagues with me and we'll discuss another top 10 list. So this has been the top 10 closers of all time. I thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Like the video. Comment down below. See you next time.